Hey there, man and woman of God. I just want to encourage you today. We live in a day where times are tumultuous. This day today is actually election day, and there's a lot of division and conflict in our country. I think it's right around 3 o'clock, and for days and weeks now, there's already been talk on both sides about how no matter what the results are, they're not going to abide by it, and that means that there's going to be some contentiousness there. They're going to contend for the vote, which scares us because we think, well, that's going to come in the way of evil. Contentiousness, though, it kind of brings on this fear that things are not going to be done well, and that really is the reality of our world. We see that in the garden where God made everything perfect, and it had order, and it served purposes, and the order and even the authority of God in the garden, it was a blessing. It wasn't a curse. But then we see the fall happens, and then contentiousness comes in. Adam basically blames the whole deal on his wife, Eve. The woman you put in here with me tricked me, deceived me, and not only blames Eve, I guess God a little right there, doesn't take responsibility for the issues that he's allowed to happen in his authority. And you see this contentiousness even there at that moment between Adam and Eve with the blame game. It's not good for any marriage. The fall really brings in a sense of being contentious towards the reality that God made, the order that God made, and this is the world we live in, and this is the need for Jesus. I was doing our devotions a couple weeks ago, and I was reading out of Proverbs 21, and there was a couple of verses that really stood out to me, and it stood out to me in light of a famous verse that we all know is Proverbs 31, where it talks about the Proverbs 31 woman. And you got to realize in Proverbs, it tries to show you the way of the wise person, the godly person, the righteous person, and to show also the way of the foolish person, the person that's not righteous, the person that says in their heart there is no God, the person that wants to be in control. And those images are really images that you can see first in the garden. See, Adam and Eve's issue was they wanted to be in control. And when things got out of control, it brought contentiousness, strife. And we see that even today. And really the call of God on all of our lives is to not go in the way of Adam, but go in the way of Jesus. And to allow the Spirit of God to take over our flesh so we can be people of God growing in righteousness. So just observing the Proverbs 31 woman, it's interesting. It starts off in Proverbs 31 verse 10. It says, "An excellent wife who can find? And she's far more worthy than any jewels." And it says this in verse 11, "The heart of her husband trusts in her." Verse 12, "She does him good and not evil." A lot of these principles that we see for the wife are principles that we can all learn, right? Husbands, men, women, children, friendships. These are the principles of godliness, right? And verse 25, it says, "Strength and dignity are her clothing." She smiles at the future. She's a hopeful person. It says about her, the way she talks, that teaching of kindness is on her tongue. And even her work ethic is well known in Proverbs 31, but it says that she doesn't eat the bread of being idle. She's not idle. Her children bless her, and her husband praises her, right? In verse 30, finally, it says, "A woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised." And so really, Proverbs 31 woman is showing you a person who is a blessing to those and has blessing on her tongue, and the people in her life are blessed by her presence. And so that's interesting, because we all want to be Proverbs 31 people, and women want to be Proverbs 31 women. Where, though, is the opposite of that? And I was really meditating in our devotions about the description of this person that's found in Proverbs 21. So you have a Proverbs 31 woman, and then you have a Proverbs 21 woman or person. And in verse 9, it talks about the person that is walking in the way of, in their fallen nature. For this instance, it's a woman, but men can do this as well, because there's a principle in here. Here in Proverbs 21, verse 9, it says this: "It is better to live in a corner of a roof than in a house shared with a contentious woman." And I remember reading that and I was thinking, whoa, that is brutal. Who's going to preach on that? And then in verse 19, it actually continues on with that thought out of Proverbs 21, verse 9. Verse 19 says, "It is better to live in a desert land than with a contentious and vexing woman." And that's like, whoa, that's interesting. It's very hard today to lead people. And I think it's because our nature our sinful nature is to be contentious. Away from God, who we are is not meant to work. And who we are in God is meant to work. The person that may be contentious or frustrated, they're never going to be at loss as to why they're frustrated. They're going to have good reason of why they're engaged in this battle, and to justify their contentious nature, right? They're going to defend themselves and protect themselves because they feel like, hey, we're not on the same team. And that may be true, but the thing that this scripture teaches us is that more contentiousness in that relationship will not bring about the result that you need. Very often, we try to and hope and desire and want people to change. And often in our relationships, the person that needs to change the most is probably us. I think there has to be some point in life where we can submit, and first and foremost to God. I just think that we maybe need to think about our relationships and our attitudes and say, are there things in our life where we are contentious? Just a thought maybe to wrestle with. I just pray that the Spirit of God will take over in all of our lives, that we would learn to walk in righteousness, walk in the way of a Proverbs 31 person and not a Proverbs 21 person. God bless you. We love you. Have a great day.